every patient and hence the disease that he acquires is very mathematical. And without understanding and applying the law of minimum, you will get zero results. Hi, I'm Dr. Shripad Khedekar. I've been teaching and practicing homeopathy in India and in Europe for the last 21 years. And I'm here to share the secrets of my success with you. Sa vidya ya vimukte. Now what that meant? It meant knowledge liberates you. And this logo was actually the symbol of goddess Saraswati that we've been worshipping in India for more than 5,000 years as far as the history goes. Now what is the significance of this goddess Saraswati? Goddess Saraswati is the symbol of wisdom, of art, of learning, of speech, of music to help create, regulate and regenerate. So basically the first lesson on miasms was given to me when I was in kindergarten. But obviously we failed to understand it. So to have a tendency to have a flaw in the act of creation is what is Sora. The tendency to have flaws in the act of regulation is psychosis. And the tendency to have flaws in the act of regeneration, mind you, it's called regeneration and not degeneration because everything transforms. That's Newtonian. That's syphilis. So once you master this technique, as it's also called in Sanskrit as Tantra, with a scientific tool which in Sanskrit is called Yantra. So once you have the Tantra and you have the Yantra, you will have phenomenal results. And this is what is going to take you to the next level. So for decades, I have been using these 21 elements in the Saraswati Yantra. So all these triangles that you are seeing here denote an element of mental generals, physical generals and the pathological generals. So again coming to the simple binary equation. When it comes to the physical generals, we are looking at elements like thermals. So just to see whether the patient is hot or chilly. Obviously he could be ambithermal as well. Then we look at the thirst. Is the patient thirsty or thirstless? Then we look at the appetite. Is the appetite up or is the appetite down? Then we look at the eliminating processes like urine, perspiration and stool. Then we look at the sexual desire of a person. Is it up or is it down? And then we look at the sleep or dreams. So just applying this binary equation, you will come to the eliminating method and finally zero down on the remedy, which is going to be the game changer for the patient. Same is applicable at the level of mentals. So is the will positive or is the will negative? Obviously, all these elements, whether it is there or not there, have a group of remedies attached to them. I'll be more than happy to share the proven remedies that I have experimented over years in my practice with you. So you will see that most expert homeopaths do not spend a lot of time on the computer repertorizing a particular case because all these elements are embedded into their head. It's into their DNA. So they are just eliminating what is there and what is not there. For example, there are remedies with a positive will and there are remedies with a negative will. There are remedies with good morals and remedies with bad morals. Same is the case with sociability. Whenever the patient enters your clinic, you should immediately understand whether he is an extroverted patient or whether he is an introverted patient. A simple thing like when a patient walks into your office or walks into your clinic, he greets you and introduces himself in a very lively way. It's loud and clear that he's extroverted. And there are patients who need a lot of poking and poking and poking till they give you one simple answer. Now these are people who are introverted. Now just by observation, you can deduce these things and eventually solve. It does not take a lot of effort to understand these things. Hence I am saying, the eyes will see only what the mind knows. Now at the level of pathology, the patient brings you a bunch of reports. because usually the patient has been to a few places before he has chosen you as your physician. So from these battery of reports, you easily get to understand the pathological generals. They are obvious and clear. So once you put all the three elements, the physical generals, the mental generals, and the pathological generals into this tool, the remedy becomes obvious and clear, almost mathematical. Hahnemann has mentioned in his Organon that homeopathy is mathematics. I have studied from and assisted some of the biggest names in the industry, right from genetic scientists to homeopaths to physicians to gastroenterologists to psychiatrists to dermatologists and all that. So what separates a master prescriber from an ordinary prescriber is the understanding of domino effect of mind and body. This is exactly what separates the ordinary from the expert. Once you understand the domino effect at the level of mind and body, it takes you immediately to the next level. And we are going to discuss this now. The textbook of Organon and the textbook of chronic diseases, according to me, has to be given the highest importance when you're studying homeopathy. In India, we study Organon at the undergraduate level only for 3 years. I sincerely feel that these 3 years are too short to understand something that is very, very futuristic. Hahnemann has given gems of his life in the Organon. From 1796 till date, all of the fundamentals are true if we understand them in the light of modern sciences. Right from the first aphorism till the 294th aphorism. Now, I was one of the fortunate few to have been imparted great education or the right direction in Organon during my undergraduate days. And I cannot thank my teacher, Dr. Mrs. M.N. Sheikh, enough. Ma'am, if you're listening to this, I'm sincerely ever grateful to you. And I'm taking on this journey of imparting Organon to my other viewers. In our undergraduate studies, the book on chronic diseases was only a reference book. I mean, seriously? When Hahnemann himself says that without understanding miasms, homeopathy is flawed, and you only gave it as a reference book without making it mandatory or compulsory, and you also expect us to become successful homeopaths? And when somebody actually gives emphasis on the chronic diseases and the understanding of miasms, he becomes successful. And what the other homeopaths call him? A lucky homeopath. I mean, there is no luck. It is all pure yantra and tantra. It's all technique. Once you are skilled in the right technique, my dear friends, sky will be the limit. In our forthcoming seminar, I'm going to dedicate one full session on understanding miasms, but in a very interesting and a very entertaining way. I teach Organon, or whenever I teach miasms, I show a lot of movie clips, a lot of films, so that my students understand the subject in a way that they should understand it. If there is no entertainment attached to education, it becomes a very flat and a boring process. One can understand Organon in several interesting ways. You could watch a movie and understand miasms. You could watch a sport and understand miasms. You can look at the world around you and understand miasms. You could listen to music and understand miasms. Unfortunately, these techniques are not used in our schools and colleges. And then the world ridicules us for not having practiced the right homeopathy, and eventually we are labeled as pseudoscience practitioners. Really deeply hurts me. The human body develops from a single embryo into a huge multicellular organism with trillions of cells. Now, obviously, all of them are interrelated to each other in the sense the genetic information in every cell throughout the body remains the same, which means that there is obviously a domino effect, which means everything is interrelated and dependent on each other. Now let's try to understand how this domino effect takes place in your body at the level of your mind, and at the level of your physique. Once you correlate the two, remedies will become obvious, understanding the constitutions will become an easy process and yet a very mathematical one. Interestingly, at the level of your mind, we will try to understand how one thought can shape your destiny and how a single gene can give rise to diseases.
Our bodies contain many specialized cells that carry out specific functions. These specialized cells are called differentiated cells. In contrast, a stem cell is undifferentiated. Its role in the body is not yet determined. A stem cell can give rise to multiple cell types, including more stem cells. Stem cells play an important role in our bodies, from embryonic development through adulthood. Development begins when sperm and egg meet. This event produces a special kind of stem cell that has the potential to grow into a human being as well as a placenta, which will nourish the embryo as it grows. For the first few divisions, all the cells remain undifferentiated. Each one has the same potential as the fertilized egg. As development continues, a series of instructions or signals gradually limit each cell's potential. Differentiation has begun. 1 week after fertilization, the embryo, now called the blastocyst, looks like a lopsided hollow ball. The cells around the outside of the ball will form the placenta. A clump of cells on the inside, called the inner cell mass, will form all the cells of the body. About 2 weeks after fertilization, the cells organize into 3 layers. Cell signals restrict the cell's potential even further. Each layer will give rise to a different set of cell types. A few weeks later, the cells of the outer layer, or ectoderm, have become skin, nervous system, and parts of the face and neck. The middle layer, or mesoderm, has become muscle, blood vessels, and the beginnings of bones and connective tissue. The inner layer, or endoderm, has begun to form the digestive and respiratory tracts and the glands that feed into them, including the pancreas and the liver. As development continues, cells differentiate to form the 250 or so cell types of the body. But even after birth and into adulthood, pockets of stem cells remain. These somatic or adult stem cells play an important role in growth, maintenance, and repair. Some stem cells sit quietly, waiting for a signal to tell them to divide. Others are constantly at work, replacing cells that are lost through daily wear and tear. Somatic stem cells differ from embryonic stem cells. Under natural conditions, they can give rise to just a few cell types. For example, bone marrow stem cells give rise most often to blood cells. Bone marrow contains massive numbers of stem cells, but most somatic stem cells sit among large numbers of differentiated cells. Somatic stem cells have been found in many other tissues, including brain, blood vessels, muscle, skin, teeth, heart, gut, and liver. As we grow from fertilized eggs into fully formed human beings, stem cells give rise to all of our differentiated tissues and organs. Stem cells continue to play an important role throughout our lives as they help to heal and maintain our bodies.
Externally, there is this entire universe around you. Between these factors is where a thought actually shapes up. If the thought becomes prominent, it is expressed. It could be verbal or non-verbal. Let's call it your word. When that important thought becomes an important word, that important word actually becomes your action because you act on it. Repeated actions of one particular type go on to make it a habit, and repeated habits make your character. And we all know that finally it is the character that is most important, because that is what is going to shape your destiny. So you see how a simple thought, but an important thought, actually shapes up your destiny. In the same way, at the level of your body, we are nothing but a bundle of billions and trillions of genes. All of these genes hold important material. We can watch a simple clip to understand how a gene translates or produces a protein. The protein finally acts on a particular cell. Now, when this action of the protein on the cell becomes recurrent, that is what we call as your physical disposition. And the same physical disposition now becomes your disease proneness. And the same disease proneness now decides your fate at the level of your physique. Disposition means how are you disposed to react at the physical level. So depending on your proneness to react is what actually shapes up a particular constitution, which means your physical makeup. And the constitution finally leads into disease proneness. Now, different constitutions are prone to different diseases. And this is exactly what we decipher with just our powers of observation. All these elements have clues. So when you look at a patient, you should start gathering all this information. And once this information starts to assimilate and digest into your mind, the byproduct is a beautiful remedy. When you gather wrong information, or as I call it, garbage information, you are going to give a garbage remedy. But when you start gathering the right information or nutrient information, the result is a very, very productive thing. I firmly believe in definitions and in mathematics. Unless a thing is absolutely clear to me, I would never apply it. Learning to unlearn is the highest level of learning that is ever possible. Whatever you have been taught in your schools or colleges or universities, but now it's time to move on and take it to the next level. It's time to rise and shine.